Hello, everybody. It is Narrative Tarot. I'm here for Mercury, April 2021. I am Narrative Tarot, as I stated. I'm going to be doing your tarot reading. Comment, like, subscribe to the channel. It just helps to populate the video more, helps it reach more people, things like that. And subscribing keeps you in the loop. I do monthly videos, so these planet videos are for people who have significant aspects natally in their chart or significant aspects that are current transits in their chart. So that's how I do them. I would put the zodiac sign up next to them, but it's primarily for the planet. So the planet of Mercury rules, I was going to say Venus, Virgo and Gemini both. So if you have significant Virgo or Gemini transits or natal aspects, then this is also your reading. So there's generally two parts to this reading. The first part is kind of more of an overview, and the second part is kind of more in depth. So first part, I'm going to be using the Hermetic Tarot, and then the second one I'll be using Paracelsus Dreams Tarot. I really can't pronounce it. I'm sorry, guys. They're kind of similar, actually, but one is a little less invasive with the drawing. So what do we have for Mercury, April 2021? What do people need to know? Mercury, April 2021. April 2021 for Mercury. April 2021 for Mercury. Okay. So we have the upper worlds, the lower worlds. All of this could be one reading, or it could be that each pair of upper and lower worlds is his own reading. It generally comes out it's its own reading, but sometimes it carries over. So for the upper world, we have Eight of Wands, which is the Lord of Swiftness, and the Five of Cups, Lord of Loss and Pleasure. So for the upper world, there is some need to ascend. It's almost like, okay, when you look at this one, right, it's pointing more upward, and this one is more downward. So it's actually kind of like it roots you, and then it's almost like it cements your place in earth, and then it helps extend you up into the heavens. So like, pay attention to your spine at this time. Pay attention to your spine. Pay attention to posture, but particularly your spine. You might need to stand erect more to deliver messages for some reason. I don't know why. Or you need to do that in order to channel energy throughout your body a little bit better. The rootedness down here with the Five of Cups, I don't take it as you're rooted in like negative things. It's just you're rooted. You're rooted, and it's the beginning process of being rooted. It's not a deep root, it's more of a shallow root, because these aren't necessarily looking like roots that would be very invasive or intrusive into the earth. They look like they would go no further than a foot, if that. And so rooting yourself even more would make this a lot better. And so the Eight of Wands, there's a little bit of stratification that you need to do. The roots need to stratify themselves and spread out a lot more. And so you need the nutrients to do that. You need the spiritual nutrients, physical nutrients, things like that to do it. And you need the site of where to plant this to be able to be successful, because these little dots on these things look like eyes. But you need to make sure that you are interlocking things. Everything has its place, everything has its part, and that you create the right structure for it. Everything needs to be structured. Everything needs to have its place. Everything needs to be set to go. It's almost like you have to have it set to go before it can even take root. And then that root system, beginning structure, will have its own system of how it develops and how it moves forward and how you're able to just create an ecosystem. But it doesn't seem like it's quite established. So you need to put energy with this Eight of Wands into making it more structured, making it better in terms of, it's almost like cross pollination, cross breeding, things like that. There's just a lot that goes with it. So it's going to be a lot of your mind processing that. It's almost like you need your mind functioning before you can do this. Like you have roots in there, and it's like you're kind of watering them and pruning whatever comes up and stuff like that. But it's like once your mind fully accepts or develops the idea or the plan, then you can like go through with it. And so making sure that you have the energy to go through with it, making sure that it is of a higher perspective, because we have, what is this, Mercury and Sagittarius, that it's from a higher perspective, that is actually measuring up, it's moving you forward. It's funny because it's like Gemini is opposite Sagittarius, and so, but it's in the upper world, so it's what you need. And you need that higher perspective, not necessarily of where you're going, like you need to have the end game. It's just you need to fully embody and embrace what it is that you're going to do before you do it. It's not a thing where you need to be solidified in who you are and stuff like that. Like that's the shallow roots and stuff like that. Like that's there, but you need to also now formulate a plan for these specific things that you need to do to move forward. So Eight of Wands is really more of a structural thing, more of a mental structural thing, mental getting things together, because the Eight of Wands in most decks is kind of like a bunch of sticks like shooting through the air, and they're kind of just parallel lines. This one is like interlocking and interconnecting, which means you need to have all of the systems interconnected, interlocked. You need to know the machine and how it runs. And so if you don't know the machine, if you don't know how it runs, if you don't know what the machine is used for, you won't be able to choose the right machine. You won't be able to choose the right systems. So this could be something as simple as taking stock. And this is for me too, because I'm shifting for stuff. I don't have Gemini in my chart really. I was almost a Gemini, but I don't have that much Gemini chart. A little bit of Virgo. And a lot of 6th house energy right now. So I can tell you that having I won't say spreadsheet, but having a glossary, so to speak, of systems or a knowledge bank or something like that, if you want to start something in a particular area, maybe knowing, okay, so here we go. You want to start a nonprofit or some sort of health organization. Example of something I'm trying to do. It would be great to understand what's the difference between nonprofit and a for-profit. What's the difference between a community organization and an international kind of like subsidiary or something like that. It would be great to know those things so you can choose the best option, because they all overlap, but you want to make the perfect structure for you that works out. The Five of Cups is not disappointment or anything like that. I just kind of feel like it's a centering and making sure that you are putting your energy into necessary like actions. And because Gemini and Virgo are such mental people, they're ruled by something that deals with communication. It's very helpful for you if you are to move forward to understand how things work and how things communicate with each other so that things communicate seamlessly. Now, we have the Hierophant, Magus of the eternal gods, and then Spirit of Ether, the foolish man or the fool. And so, in the upper world, the Hierophant is. So, this is what I'm getting. The foolish man is great, but I kind of feel like this is, and it has Pluto energy too. It's the transformation for you, but like the Hierophant is kind of one of those things where it's like it's not just you, it's the world. It's not you, just you. It's other people. It's not just you. It's a bigger scope. And so the responsibility of the Hierophant is not just to himself. It could represent not just the ego, which could be symbolized by the foolish man in this one, but it's to a community. Like there is a responsibility in hierarchy. There's a responsibility in the teachings. There's a responsibility in the work that is done, and there's a gravity to it. There's a serious consequence to it. And so whatever it is that you want to do, make sure that you understand with this the stratifications, the implications, the relationships between things, how things are affected. So studying something like ecology or the environment or something like that, understanding how things work like that, business dynamics, hierarchy, HR, how that works. Stuff like this could be really helpful for you. It may not be something that you're interested in doing long term, but I think just studying HR, studying how things work, just look at one organization. It doesn't have to be like a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate or something like that. It could be something quite small. You can even go, maybe if you're allowed to, depending on where you are in the world, go and observe people in their business, like a fast food restaurant or something like that. Like notice the stratification of relationships and how they interwork and how they interlock, if there's any conflict between them, things like that. Understanding how theoretically you would solve those issues. Get your mind working on how to create solutions for that, and understanding like the implications of doing things. Another one of those things that you could do is those little tests where they're like, there's a fox, a chicken, and like a dog or something like that, and they have to get to the other side, and it's a problem solving thing. It's like you can't leave the fox with the chicken because the chicken will eat or the fox will eat the chicken, and then you can't leave that. Like, how can you do it so that they all get across? It's one of those things that you can look them up, because I can't explain it because I was never good at it. But that's one of those things, like problem solving, riddles, things like that help you stimulate your thought process, would probably be really helpful for you in April. And particularly with the Hierophant, since we're going into Hierophant season with Taurus season, halfway through April, it'll help you. And we're actually leaving Aries season behind. So you would do well to probably think about those things, think about those processes, and just make an effort to look into what is a component in problem solving, what is a component in solution making, solution implementation. How do people implement solutions? How do people stick to solutions? Things like that. But particularly for you, the stratifications of businesses, and you could do society or something like that, but businesses would probably be the more practical example if that's something that you're interested in, or society at large, how it compartmentalizes work, things like that, because Virgo is about work and Gemini is about communication. So how things are communicated, stratified, solved, put to use is really important. But it's just manifesting itself through Hierophant, understanding that there is a solution that's supposed to be brought, or a relationship to be maintained, but there's a responsibility on the part of the Hierophant to deliver certain things because he is perceived to be over, and there's responsibility on the part of the person who is considered to be under, right? So the Hierophant, like I said, represents not necessarily just you, but the world at large and the consequences of being the one who bears that knowledge or that experience or that mentorship that's being given to someone else. That would be the foolish man. And it's that the foolish man can become the Hierophant, but it's one of those things where it becomes more about society at large as opposed to just the foolish man. So if you're moving from something that's solo to community, you have to bear that kind of stuff in mind, you know? So make sure you bear that in mind, because you might be lacking in that. Okay. I feel like I want to do one more card with this. Might be a cup card, I don't know. Could be. Two of Cups, Lord of Love. And so you have, what is this? Venus in Cancer. So, I mean, you could have a Venus in Cancer, but for me, it's about dealing with relationships again, dealing with the ability to offer something that is substantial to someone else and not assume that what you offer is substantial. So a great thing is like business, keeping in mind with that. Just because it's a great business idea doesn't mean it solves people's problems. It doesn't mean it adds anything to people's lives. And so, you know, if it doesn't solve people's problems or add value to it, then they're not going to facilitate in like buying it, or they're not going to facilitate in supporting it or recommending it, or even providing things like mentorship. Think of like Shark Tank, when like you go up there and you're like, yeah, this is great, and then they just ball bust you like every fucking time. Like, understanding that like you are creating something, giving it to the world, but the world is very particular at times about what it is willing to receive and what it isn't willing to receive. And so you have to be okay with that. Going into things with less rose tinted glasses, I hate shit like that, but like a little bit of more expectations that are going to be placed upon you, knowing the expectations placed upon you, know how to mitigate bad press or know how to mitigate certain situations like that. Understanding that like people are consuming this and how they're consuming this and why they're consuming this is helpful, but I think it's more helpful to understand where you stand when it comes to certain things. So just making sure that you understand the relationship that you have with yourself and your product, and that other people have with your product or your service or whatever that you want, etc., etc., etc. So this is the second part. I'm going into the second part. So I don't know where this is gonna go. One at a time. And I probably won't use that many. Okay, do you not want this? Okay. I got the Fool again. We have the Three of Cups. And Six of Wands. Okay, so we have the Fool, Three of Cups, Six of Wands reversed. So the Fool again, it almost looks like the Fool is like blinds with a little line coming on in front of him. I thought that was a walking stick for a minute. But like, so we have the Fool, the Three of Cups, and the Six of Wands reversed. So there just might be a little bit of running around in circles. It's almost like if it transitions to Taurus season too fast, even though like we have kind of fixed dates per year when Taurus season, it may be like the energy doesn't keep up with the calendar. You know what I'm saying? Like the calendar is fixed, but it's almost like the Eight of Wands is like fixed, and then the Five of Cups is like in motion. And so you may feel like you're walking into this blind. It's almost like if you have, I'm not going to say like release expectations, but if you are like looking at the calendar, you're like Taurus season starts April 21st, and then like you have this April 21st kind of vision, like the energy may push back into like the 26th or something like that, and you're sitting like, damn, like I thought Taurus season was going to kick off and I was going to feel this. Or perhaps you forget about this reading altogether, and then, you know, it comes out like April 15th or something like that, like way earlier, you know? So it's one of those things with the Fool. It's like, be prepared to be surprised about how something is delayed or about how something like gets bumped up. The three of circles, the three of cups to me feels like, depending on how blindsided, sideswept you get, you may end up going around in circles trying to figure out a plan by yourself and trying to figure out how to do it. It's not that it feels like it's of a high consequence. These are very light cards and relatively positive ones at that. It doesn't feel like there's high consequences or you're on a severe time clock where you have to figure this out in 48 hours or the bomb like goes off or something like that. That's not how this is working. It's working as you just may be putting yourself in back, setting yourself back. The energy that would come forward to help root you more, setting it back for a little longer. So delaying things a little bit longer. It's really kind of hard to give an example. Like, it's not too much more that I can say. The Six of Wands is just, it won't be as successful. It doesn't really, it's not that bad. Like, it's not that bad. I don't get anything bad from this. I don't get anything like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna get sideswept and like a whole bunch of shit's gonna happen. No, it's just things that may have been successful or calculated to be successful, but it's based on date. So like launching date, something like that may get delayed and you may have to go around and figure it out now. I'm gonna try and read the words that are on this, but as you can see, this shit is small as fuck. And then they use like this type that's like really hard, and I don't understand why. I really don't. But we have the Fool. When a limb is amputated, its etheric double remains with the person. I don't know how this relates, so take it if not. It's a very body-oriented deck. This cannot save him from the physical consequences of neglecting his body, disregarding his needs, or living contrary to the rules governing the distribution of universal energy. Man is always in the midst of energies, many of which are beyond his conscious understanding. Yet gradually, through the growth of his known mind, he attains to true learning and becomes responsive to the universal energies which sustain learning and help it to increase. Okay. God clothes and guides all creatures, not only men, but many beings we know not of. It comes to us out of the water, makes itself known and seen, and then returns to its element. Elements are not always visible, nor is man able to solve their mystery completely by merely observing their effects in his own life. So yeah, this seems like it's about more bigger, macro, larger kind of things that you have to think about. Not necessarily like solving the world's problems or shit like that, but it's about taking on that responsibility to be a part of that larger structure, things like that. It's really interesting. So I feel like don't anticipate a date for energy. It's almost like if you hunt for energy to like feed off of, to go off of, instead of having your own structural plan in place and just being willing to change as it goes. If you have such a reliance on a date, it may just come up to surprise you, just to test this, just to test what's going on, just to test your ability to adapt to other people, to other situations and things that arise, that it isn't just you. Okay, I might, depending on how long this is, do another piece. Okay, so I'll do two for this one. And two. So we have the Devil with 9 of Cups. So we have the Devil with Nine of Cups. With the Devil and the Nine of Cups, because this is so structural, you may get an addiction to figuring this out in a way that I suggested, that it becomes almost formulaic. And with this Fool and Three of Cups situation, this up here, just make sure that you're not like, oh, I get it, and stuff like that, or you become so like go with the flow that becomes your real actual formula. Sometimes you really do need structure, and sometimes the energy will actually like just line up how the fuck it lines up the way you anticipate it. But like, it's like you can't be too rigid in solving problems either way. And so with this Devil, just don't be too attached to this idea of rigid hierarchies, rigid ways of thinking, rigid ways of problem solving. That's not going to help you. Just make sure that whatever thing you do, you have a solid structure in that. It's something that was well thought out. Even if it's something that has to be a deviation, a major deviation from the plan, that it's still well thought out. And that you do have some idea of larger implications of what's going on, what's going to be affected by this, how this is going to affect other things, other people, and stuff like that. Just making sure that you're not so rigid, and also making sure that you're not projecting that it has to be this way. So something with the Devil, it could be that you end up manipulating situations to help make this come that certain way. With this Nine of Cups, that like if you're trying to herd a group of people into a way of thinking, that you manipulate the certain circumstances so that they can facilitate whatever solution that you have. I was watching a lot of videos about this, about manipulation and marketing and stuff like that. Like, don't do that, but be understanding of the processes that allows that to happen. But don't necessarily use it yourself, but be aware that it exists. I think that you just need to be aware that it exists, and that you exist in a certain way, in a certain space. Don't make your things so formulaic all the time. Even go with the flow can get formulaic, because it could be your default, and it's the thing that if you come to rely on it with the Nine of Cups, when it's skewed or missing or delays itself, like up here, there could be this like delay of happiness or emotional satisfaction and contentment, that you start to like employ manipulation to kind of obtain. And so you don't want to do that. So with the Devil, it says, this is it, guys. Various kinds of energy can be released only through creatures or beings in whose nature appropriate sympathetic polarities exist. Man's uniqueness lies in the fact that within him are poles capable of attracting countless forms of energy. Take that as you will. Alright, I hope that you guys enjoyed this Mercury April 2021 reading. Thank you for watching. Again, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.